Okay, so we're still setting the Yesod over here for Adam Amazik, and we brought down the Machlokes between Tosfos and the Ramban as to the halacha of Adam Muad L'Olam. The halacha is that a person is responsible for his actions regardless of it's a shogeg or an oinus, which is unlike the halacha in other isurim. If a person is forced, let's say, if a person is forced or some other oinus to do any isur in the Torah, he's potter, right? If he's forced to eat chazer, he's potter. And yet here, even if he does it ba'oinus, which is not his ratzah, and he doesn't do it willingly, he still has to pay. However, the extent of how far does the oinus go is a big machlokes in the Rishonim. And that's what we spoke at last week. We said the Ramban understands the halacha much more literally. Adam muad la'olam. Even an oinus gamor, which is completely out of your control, you have to pay for. Tosfos brings many rayas, many cases that in fact we find that Adam is potter in nezek. Adam is potter. So how could it be? If Adam muad la'olam, why is he potter? So Tosfos says all those cases seem to indicate they're an oinus gamor. They're beyond your control completely, and if it's an oinus gamor, you don't have to pay at all. That was Tosfos' Yesod. So, just to explain Tosfos, what is the difference between oinus gamor and partial oinus? Oh, that's really bad. No, this is not so bad. I mean, what exactly is the difference? So the difference is, and we'll explain it based on the lumdus in a few minutes, but the difference basically is that in oinus, Tosfos holds that the difference is like this. Something which you could have avoided. Yeah, it's not something which generally you're culpable for, or we would, it's your fault, but you could have avoided it. So one of the cases in the Gemara is that you had a stone on your lap, and you got up, and it fell off the lap, and it was mazik someone. You could have avoided that, but then Tosfos says a step further. What happens if you didn't know there was a stone on your lap? I don't know, you forgot about it. Or lo hikrba, it happened to be there. How did it get there? I don't know. Someone put it there. The stone ended up on your lap somehow, and you got up, and you didn't know about it, and because of that, it fell. So still, Tosfos holds it's a very far type of achrayus, but there's something you could have avoided it. It's something that was in your control to check, double check, triple check before you get up. Since you could have avoided it, you're responsible. Huadin in a ruach she'ena mitzuya. Let's say you put something in a place. Let's say you're on the top of a roof, and ruach she'ena mitzuya comes, and a wind which is not so common comes and pushes you off, and you mazik. Same thing. It's not that you usually have to think about that. If it would be your property, let's say you're a shomer, you were hired to guard something, and you guarded it, and a ruach she'ena mitzuya came and knocked down the fence, and then the animal left. You're potter because you're not responsible for that, but it's something you could have done to avoid it. When there's nothing you could have really done to avoid it, Tosfos holds your potter, and that's the case of oinus. So, for example, let's take some of the cases of Tosfos. Tosfos says you're walking, and you turn the corner. You're doing a totally normal thing. There's nothing you could have done to see that someone had placed a jug, a crystal vase in the corner. You turn the corner, so you did it. You're an oinus, but there's nothing you could have done to avoid that. Or the case of Tosfos says other cases. Tosfos says a case, let's say, like we said, a father had a cow, he borrowed it, and he forgot to tell his children that it was borrowed. They got the Yerusha, and they shechted the cow for the meat. So again, there's nothing they could have done to avoid that situation. They followed the regular path of action. They didn't do anything that there was a shmira, a lack of shmira or something like that. So this is Tosfos' Yesod. You have to have some level of responsibility to be chayiv. If there's some level of achrayus to be chayiv. What? There's no real shmir there. There's no real something that is mutal on you to do to make sure that it doesn't happen. Right, that this case of oinus kain, that's the case. Or niskal. Tosfos holds in general, if you're holding a chavis and you're walking normally and he trips, so it's not like it's an oinus, it happens. I mean, it's nothing like I could have walked more carefully. I was walking carefully. It happened anyway. So nothing more really I could have done. So that's those are basically the cases of Tosfos. The Ramban holds that Oines Gomer, no matter what, you're sitting on the roof and a hurricane comes, pushes you off, you have to pay. Basically, if you turn a corner and there's stuff there and you step on it, you have to pay, more or less. Yeah, it doesn't make a difference. You have to pay. You are responsible for your actions, as opposed to popular belief. You are responsible to take care of what you mazik someone, you got to pay. Doesn't make a difference. But there's two categories that the Ramban is bechadish that makes you potter. One category is when the other person, when the owner is when the owner of the item that you damaged is pesheya. So let's say the case is that the owner himself put something on the corner, his crystal vase, and then you turn the corner. So what's he putting it in a place that he knows that who's ever coming there is going to trip on it? So since the owner himself put it there, you're potter. Rav Shlomo Zalman declares, what if someone else put it there? According to the Ramban, he says maybe the other person's chayv al eish. I don't know. Anyway, it's not clear. That's an example. Or your mazik bershus means, let's just say it a little easier, is that the action that you're doing is warranted beferish. And you're supposed to be doing the hezek that you did. The actual hezek that happened, you have permission to be doing it. So the kids, they have permission to shech the animal. Yeah, later on, they realize it wasn't their animal, they have permission to do that. This is the machlokes rishonim, and as you can imagine, there's a lot of nafkaminas. Many cases are going to be subject to the machlokes between Tosfos and the Ramban. Okay? So, now, I mean, halacha l'maisa, the truth is that many cases, a lot of cases I was reading, they were talking about different things that there's a lot of examples. Car accident example, the person it was 4 a.m. and there's a flashing red light, so you're supposed to stop. You don't assume anyone's there, and then all of a sudden someone on a scooter comes and the car hits the scooter. The person's fine, but the scooter got damaged. So is he an oinus? I mean, it's 4 a.m. Does he have to think to avoid that? So this Dayan wanted to say, according to the Ramban, maybe the person's chayiv, but according to Tosfos, the person's potter, because you're not really mechuyev to think that there's anybody there at that point. Different things like this that would be where I'm not doing anything wrong, but aval pikein you damage somebody, then you have to then it would be a machlokes between Tosfos and the Ramban. The big question is, obviously, after we get this foundation, is the first question we want to know halacha l'maisa is you want to know what the Rambam holds, because the Shulchan Aruch is generally going to go with the Rambam. So you want to know what the Rambam holds, and then once you know what the Rambam holds and you know what Tosfos holds, you could almost predict what the Shulchan Aruch is going to say, because the Shulchan Aruch himself is going to go with the Rambam generally, and the Ramah is going to go with Tosfos generally. So pretty much, if you learn the sugya well and you saw Tosfos, then you're going to know that Tosfos and the Rosh are the same. And you go to the Rambam, and the Rambam and the Rif are usually the same. So you're going to end up that the Mechaber is going to go with the Rambam, and the Ramah is going to go with Tosfos. That's generally what happens. So we already know what Tosfos holds, so we probably are going to look in the Shulchan Aruch and find what the Ramah holds. The question is, what about the Rambam? So the Rambam honestly is not so clear, but there's the Magen Mishnah takes out from 2 specific halachas what the Rambam holds. So those are on page 12 and 13, and we'll get to the Shulchan Aruch, and there's a machlokes achronim in the Shulchan Aruch, so we'll see what happens. Halacha Mechoyv Mazik Perak Aleph Halacha Yud Beis. Yud Aleph and Yud Beis, really, but we'll read Yud Beis. So Yud Beis, the Shulchan Aruch, the Mechaber brings this halacha. Mi shenafal min agag beruach mitzuya. Someone was on the roof, and a regular wind, a wind that he could have known, it's a common wind, the hizik, and he damaged when he fell off. Chay ba'arba dvarim, and he fell on someone, he has to pay all 4 categories of payment. It means not just the damage that he did to the person, but he has got to pay for the medical bills, he's got to pay for lost wages, he's got to pay for a lot of things. But he doesn't have to pay for embarrassing him because he didn't do it on purpose. But he's on the roof, and a ruach she'ena metzuya comes, meaning unexpected wind. So this is a category of oines, chayiv benezek b'vadi. He still has to pay for the damages. Upatim avadon, he doesn't have to pay for the lost wages and for the other things, but he has to pay the damage. Why? V'im nesapich chayiv b'kol. If he purposely did his chayiv v'im boishes. So why? This is the Gemara Adam Muad La'olam. So if you look in the Magid Mishnah on this halacha, the Magid Mishnah says that this is where the Rambam brings Adam Muad La'olam, and he actually brings it in halacha Yud Aleph also. Halacha Yud Aleph, you see in the Rambam, it says Adam Muad La'olam, ben Shogi, ben Mezid, ben Er, ben Yashim, ben Shikr. We'll see about the whole sugya about if your person damages on, when they're drunk or something. So the Akoponim, the Magid Mishnah here brings down Tosfos. He brings down that there's three types of Einus, and he basically says that the Rambam seems to go like that. So you would say the Magid Mishnah holds that the Rambam holds like Tosfos, which is the more lenient view, that you're not chayiv for Einus Gomer. Now, there's a very important Rambam that would seem to be a raya to this from the next page, which is Perek Vav, Halacha Daled. Perek Vav Halacha Daled, the Rambam has a Gemara like this. By the way, this Gemara, maybe you'll learn Makis, and this Gemara does not appear in Makis, because in our Girsa, there's no such Gemara. The Rambam had a whole different Girsa in the Gemara. But the Gemara, the way the Rambam has it, is like this. If a person's going up a ladder, and something's wrong with the ladder, and he falls and he damages someone, because there was a problem with the ladder. So the Rambam says there's two types of problems with the ladder. One problem with the ladder is the type of problem that you could have noticed before. The stick is very thin, or it's not in the holes properly. It's not sturdy. So you noticed that. You said, oh yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine. Okay, so you went up there and then you fell and damaged someone. You got to pay because that was something clearly you noticed, and that was you have to pay. But what happens in the case where it looks completely fine? It's fine. You feel it. It's tight. Everything good, but it's rotted inside. It's rotted inside, and then when you step on it, bam, the whole rung disappears pretty much, and you fall down and you get damage someone. So what's the halach over there? So that sounds like an einus. What?
I was going to say a roofer is a W doer, that it's a dangerous job. Anybody's going onto the roof.
No, he's not worried about himself. He's worried about that, but there was someone next to this ladder that he damaged on the way down. He broke his leg, fine. He's not suing the ladder company. The question is, what about does he have to pay for the guy that he fell onto? For the damage that he caused, right? He's making a good point. You have to always keep in mind. We're not talking about the damage to the person. We're talking about the damage that he caused to the other guy. So the Rambam says like this: Haya oilab and halacha dalet. Haya oilab besulam. He's going up a ladder. V'nishmata shliva mitachtav, and the rung fell out from under his leg. V'nafla v'hizika, and the rung itself. He's fine, but the rung itself actually it says damage. Im loy haisa mehudekes v'chazaka. If it was just weak and it wasn't installed properly, chayiv, because he should have noticed that. Haisa chazaka. If it was strong or mehudekes, v'nishmata oishi isliya, and it fell out anyway, or it was rotted. Harei zeh potter, you're potter. The Rambam adds a word here. Shezu maka b'dei shamayim hi v'chein kol koyotza b'zeh. So the Rambam adds a little bit of a word here, which maybe we'll get back to. He says because the guy in the bottom didn't get hit by you, the guy in the bottom got hit from shamayim. That's what the Rambam says. Now the Rambam is explaining over here. The guy comes and says, oh, "1 second, you damaged me." So he says, "No, I'm potter. He says, "Well, look, I was fine. You're on the ladder. So, why should I be chayav? Why should I suffer damage because of you?" So he says, "Well, Hashem made this happen, and obviously Hashem made this happen to you, not to me. It's your fault, not mine." That's basically what he's saying, right? So he pulls out the Hashgacha Pratis card, and he basically says, "Look, it's your your gzera, not my problem." Like my Rashi used to always say, if a person is going through a tzara, they don't have parnas or something, and they don't have a job, and they don't take out a sefer Chavis Halvavas Shar B'Tachan and learn Shar B'Tachan, he's a kofer. You don't believe it, you have to work on your B'Tachan. Someone comes to you and says, "I have no money, I need a job," and you take out a sefer Chavis Halvavas Shar B'Tachan, you're a Rasha. For yourself, you work on Shar B'Tachan. For him, you give him money. So over here, you're pulling out like you're saying, "It's not my fault. Hashem wanted you to get damaged. I'm just the shliach." right? But that's what the Rambam says. We'll get back to it, and we'll get back to it. But that's a great line in the Rambam there to put this whole thing in perspective. But then the question is, why are you pater? Adam Muad L'Olam. What does Olam think? You're going on a ladder. It looks completely sturdy, and then happens to be there's no way you could have known. Inside is rotted out. Inside is rotted out, and you step on it, it damages, and now you cause damage. I would think, according to the Ramban, you should be chayiv. It's an oinus. There's nothing. There's an oinus, and there's nothing you could have done about it. Fine, but you have to pay. But according to the Tosfos all has to do with, was this unavoidable? Was this something that, had you been more careful, you could have avoided? You're not mechuyev to check for it. You're not mechuyev to check. But could you have? No, I mean, this is nothing that you could have really checked for. There's an oinus that was out of your control completely. So the Magen Mishnah says that this Rambam is clear that he holds like Tosfos, that's something which is beyond the level of what you could have checked for your potter. And he says, obviously, this is a greater oinus than even a Ruach Sheina Matsuya. Ruach Sheina Matsuya, don't get so close, because sometimes you're not mechuyev to choshesh, but sometimes those winds come. Here, it's not even like in the realm of possibility that this problem should exist with the ladder, and therefore, according to Tosfos, your potter, according to the Rabban, you'd be chayiv, and since the Rambam holds that your potter, must be that the Rambam holds like Tosfos. Okay, so we have the Magen Mishnah in Parak Alpha Lachid Beis. We have the Magen Mishnah here. It's saying that the Rambam holds like Tosfos, which is very important. Like we're saying, it's the lenient view. There is one line or one half a letter in the Magen Mishnah which is a little bit misleading. If you look at the Magen Mishnah, if you look at the Rambam Parak Vav Halacha Aleph, he brings down the din of Adam Muad L'Olam again. Okay, page 13. The Rambam Perek Vav Halacha Aleph. Hamazik mamon chaveiro chayiv l'shalom nezek shalim. Bein shaya shoygeg, bein shaya oines, hareu kemezit. Even if it's an oines, it was out of your control, you're still chayiv. Ketan, and he gives examples. But he's not mechalik at all. So the Magen Mishnah, if you look at the Magen Mishnah on the second line from the top of the page, he says this is a Mishnah in Pekar Zed Regel, the Kvar Kasafti Perek Rishon, the oines gomor, shekasu zal shu potter. That even though we say Adam Muad L'Olam even oinus, but not oinus gomer, not complete oinus. But then he has three words, v'harav loy chilek. But the Rambam doesn't make that distinction. So those words in the Magen Mishnah seem to say that the Rambam is not making the distinction of Tosfos. I brought Tosfos, but I wasn't saying that the Rambam goes like that. So this long line in the Magen Mishnah is very, very shver. So just for the fun of it, so the Drisha brings down this word of the Magen Mishnah, and he says, no, that yud is supposed to be a vav. That's why I said a half a letter. He says, harav loy choylek. He doesn't argue on that. He also agrees. That's how he learns the Magen Mishnah. Okay, anyway, so there's a question exactly in Halacha Aleph, what did the Magen Mishnah say? And there's other Torah on that. But it seems to be that the Rambam holds also like the Tosfos. Now, let's go to the Shulchan Aruch, and we'll learn through the Shulchan Aruch, but we'll take a little pit stop on the way. Shulchan Aruch is on page 28. Okay, and the Shulchan Aruch gives a hakdama over here, which we didn't spend time on, but I want to spend time on it now. It says like this: Osir lahazik momon chaveroi. You're not allowed to be mazik someone. V'im hizik ava pi she'eino nechayiv l'shalim nezek shalim bein shoy ashogi bein shoynas. The Shulchan Aruch and the Torah both add something that no one talked about. We're talking now about, are you responsible? Do you have to pay for the damages? And then we said oines rotzen, and then there's another question here, which is there an isser to be mazik? Is it prohibited to be on? Let's say you want to show, who's in charge. So you go to the guy's window, you smash his window, and say, look, I'll pay you for it, but I'm just showing you that, I could do this again. So you're paying him. You're going to pay for his damages. Are you allowed to be mazik someone, even if you'll end up paying for it or whatever? Is there an isser to be mazik, or is it just it's a chiyuv tashlumin? You have to pay. Now, we take it for granted, but it's b'chlal not pashut that you should have to pay for this. In Bishlama, you borrowed money from someone. You borrowed money. Okay, so you borrowed money, you have to pay back. Someone worked for you and you made an arrangement, you have to pay. But you damaged someone, even if you got hana from someone. Let's say, you went and you ate someone's apple. It's also a svara that you have to pay. It's logical because you have something that you took from him, right? So you have the hana of the apple. But that's the stress over here of the tour. Also, you didn't benefit from this, so you just made trouble. So maybe you're a troublemaker, and maybe you get malchus. Maybe the halacha is we punish you, get malchus. How do you know, or you have to pay? How do we know it's usher? Is it usher? Do you have to pay? Is there a logic that it's usher? How do we know? So you want to know it's baltashkas? That's why I said, let's say I have a purpose in doing it. There's no baltashkas if I have a reason to do it. So I have a reason to do it. I got to show him who's boss. or there could be other reasons why a person would be mazik. I'm asked to pay. Why would he do that? Because he doesn't want him to have that particular item. I don't care to pay for it, but I want to be the only person in the city that has this thing. So,
Unfocused smartphone.
what?
Unfocused smartphone.
right, exactly. Right. Who passed in that?
Me.
Yeah, exactly. So the maybe there's a purpose in why you're doing it. So there was a lashon somewhere that someone brought down. Maybe that's like baltashkas, but it doesn't cover most of the cases or all the cases.
If there's a purpose of it, then you might not be Isser the Nezek. You might hire the Nezek.
No. Of course you're chayiv. I mean, you have to pay for the gzeres. There's the chiddush in the Torah. The Torah says you have to pay for damages. The question is it also to do such a thing?
You're protecting yourself, and you have to break someone's car so they don't drive.
Protecting yourself is a different story. That's a whole sugya. You're allowed to protect yourself. If someone says damage his thing, or there's different.
That's the easier answer as to why you would actually break something. But yeah.
No, there are cases that there's an objective reason why you would do it. So, is it usher, and why is it usher? So what?
The car's in my way, I'm just gonna drive through it.
Right, I'm in a rush. I have an important meeting to get to, and your thing is in my way. Your door. So I have an important meeting. The value of the meeting is way more than the value of the item that's in my way. So I'll break your thing, get to my meeting, and I'll pay you later. Right? So am I allowed to damage you? So he says here beferish it's usher. So what's the isser? A fascinating shaila. Well, we know that you have to pay, but is it also to do that? So the Rabbeinu Yoina says that it's bichlal loisigzol. It's included in loisigzol. It's actually the very first Rabbeinu Yoina in Pirkei Avos. The very first one.
That's the way the tour starts off.
Right, because the simanim before are Geneva. So that would be mashma like that. It's included in Geneva. But I don't think the mechaber so mashma like that because Ava Pishein or Nehene. It's interesting, Rabbi Yoina. He says, Moshe Kibel Torah Sinai. He says, why was it important that Moshe would give the Torah in Sinai? Because you have to have a Masorah. For example, if it wouldn't be for the Masorah, I wouldn't know that Nezikin is Bechlal Lo Sigzol. In the very first mission of Pirkei Avos. But he brings down that Nezikin is part of Leisigzol. That's what he says. So he holds that it's part of Leisigzol. There's a Gvaldik Stipler. Some say it's after, but the Stipler says, very logical thing. It's the Siman Aleph in Baba Kama. The Stipler says because it's a Kal V'chomer that there's a halacha of Hashavas Aveda. If you see that your friend's item is lost, you have to pick it up. And if you ignore it, you're over alav, not just an essay. There's a mitzvah essay to return it, but it's also a prohibition to ignore it. Now, part of Hashavas Aveda is protecting him from a different type of loss. For example, let's say you see that your friend, the inside of his car door, the light inside his car is on. Because you see that the door wasn't left open. So if you just push the door in, close the door, it will get the light will turn off, and otherwise he's going to come back from night seder and he's not going to be able to get out. His car's going to die. So, are you allowed to do it? Are you mechuyev to do it? Should you do it? So the poskim say that's b'chlal hashavas aveda. And hashavas aveda is not because he doesn't know where it is or it's lost. Hashavas aveda is protecting him from a potential loss. All that's included in hashavas aveda. Hashavas aveda literally means return to him a lost object. But it doesn't just mean it's lost because he doesn't know where it is. There's a loss to his money that's going to happen, and you could protect him from a potential loss of money. You're mechuyev to do that. So it says the stipe kal v'chomer, you can't go ahead and damage him. Now, the case that we said though,
It's not a loss though.
oh, so the case that we said though, he's going to get the same value, but the stipler has cases that even if the person will get the value, but he's not going to get the item that he lost, still there's a Shabbos Aveda. And there's a Shabbos Aveda is on him getting back what it's his.
The Shabbos Aveda is also for tircha. The guy is going to, his car is going to be perfect. It doesn't change value with a dead battery. It's just, he's going to have to do tircha. So it's still a Shabbos Aveda on the tircha.
Right, so he's going to have to take the money that I'm going to pay him and go buy the thing again. So he wants to say it's a Kal V'chomer from a Shabbos Aveda. The Avnei Nezer, not the Avnei Nezer, because Yoav also says like that. That it's a Kal V'chomer from a Shabbos Aveda. These are all kind of like stretches, because I mean that fits in better into the lashon of the Mechaber of Afal Pi She'eino Nehena. But regardless, this is an interesting point. It's also to be mazik someone. A person can't say, "Well, look, I'm going on my way. I'm doing whatever I want. I have a credit card. Whatever happens, I'll pay for." No, a person is mechuyev to respect the property of someone else. Kal v'chomer the guf of someone else. You can't say, I'll slap this person, berab him and embarrass him, and I'll pay for it. Obviously, that's all the more so. So that's l'chayra. What did we say? We said the Rebbeinu Yoina, we said the stipler. So it's aser.
You can't say it's aser in the case of like Nafal and a guy roshing. It's not shak to say it's isser at that point. He's not doing he's in his gumbar. Like or even he's not doing a ma'isa isser.
Well, I'm not saying that you have the only reason to pay is because of the isser. But you're saying lemaisa lanar lasase davar. So lemaisa, if I did a b'inus, I wasn't over the isser. You're right. In that case, you want to you still have to pay. There is a shtickle from Reb Chaim that Reb Chaim is brought down to have said that the reason it's aser is the opposite way. It's the Torah is mechadish that you have a chiyuv to be shomer your stuff, and the isser was that you weren't shomer properly. It's like the other way around. In other words, the ikr thing is fakert, is that the mitzvah, the Torah put on you, it's clear from the psukim, that you have a chiyuv shmira. You have a chiyuv to keep you have a fire, an eish, it's going to go be mazik. You have a chiyuv shmira on that. If you're not shomer it properly, then the isser that you did was you're over your chiyuv shmira. So Reb Chaim says it like backwards a little bit. It's not that you have an isser to be mazik, it's that you have a chiyuv shmira, and the isser is not that you weren't shomer properly. That's what he says. So I'm not saying that you're only chayiv to pay if you're over the isser. There could be cases you weren't over the isser because it was einas gomer, but you still have to pay because you have chayiv tashlumin. But the aleph is it's not totally that way. But the point is that even if you're paying, it's still aser. That in those cases, in the case where it's your fault. Okay. So now, also lahazik mammon chaveroi v'im hizikoi. So we're saying it's aser and you have to pay. Nezek shalom bein shaya shoygig bein shaya anus. And then he brings the cases. Let's skip the parentheses, which is Ramah. He brings the cases that we know about. Ketzad nafal me'agag v'shavras hakelim oy sheniskal kashu mahalech v'nafal ala kli v'shavroi chayev nezek shalim. He has to pay nezek shalim. So you got to pay. Now, we don't have a clear. The Mechaber essentially didn't say more than the Gemara, so we still don't know what he holds as far as the Machlokes Tosfos and the Ramban. But if you look in the parentheses, which is the Ramah, the parenthesis says V'dafka she'enoi anus gamor. Well, it's only if it's not an anus gamor. So he's clearly the Ramah is paskening like Tosfos. Comes the Shach, and the Shach says this Ramah is very misleading. because this Ramah stuck his words in the middle of the Mechaber. Ki'ilu to say that the Mechaber himself holds like this. The Shulchan Aruch also holds like the Tosfos, that you're only chai for, right? So it says the Shach, the very first Shach, which is on the top right corner, it says, Haloshin Megungam. This Ramah is inappropriate. It's Megungam. This is what he should have said. V'yesh oimrim davka she'ina oinas gamor. He should have said a yesh oimrim, means he should have come and said, I'm arguing on the Mechaber by saying I hold like Tosfos, meaning the Shach is saying the Mechaber holds like the Ramban. And he says, Dumi Loshin HaRambam v'HaMechaber mashma de'ein chiluk. V'chein kosav HaRav HaMagid the LaRambam ein chiluk. So he doesn't have ein chiluk. He has ein chiluk. He has a Magid Mishnah, and he says Magid Mishnah learned the Rambam like me, and the Shach says the Mechaber is going like that. So according to the Shach, you have a major machlokes. So if you wake up one day and something fell off from something blew onto your property and damaged your car, you should hope it came from an Ashkenazi, not a Sephardi. Sephardi guy is going to say, I hold like the Mechaber. The Ashkenazi guy, I don't know. Huh?
It's only if a person falls off.
Yeah.
Well, whatever, right. But well, right. Now this Shach is the Pshat in the Mechaber. You look at the Gra, the Bira Gra in Ois Gimel, on the words Vidafka. Now those words Vidafka is the Ramah talking. So he quotes all the things we saw. Ayin Tosfos, V'chein Kasav HaRosh, V'Tosfos Doba Mitzia, V'chulu. Now, then the last thin line of this Bir Agra, he goes on the words of the Ramah. He says, "V'zeh she'amar k'moi she'yizbar." What did the Ramah say? Oh, and we hold like Tosfos, like it's going to become clear later. Where is that clear? Where? Ratzol Siv Vav v'Siv Gimel, b'divrei HaRambam, b'chein kasav Magid Mishnah kasav Mishnah. He says the Ramah, when he says it's going to become clear later that we hold like Tosfos, where is it going to become clear? It says the Gra. He's quoting the Mechaber later. That means that the Gra is learning that the Mechaber also holds like Tosfos. That the Mechaber also holds like Tosfos. This is the machlokes here between the Gra and the Shach. What does the Mechaber hold?
Based on the words of the Ramah.
He's saying K'moshi Yizbar, but where was it in Yizbar was the Halacha Gimel. If you look at Halacha Gimel, is where the Mechaber brings this din of the Rambam, that if the rung of the thing was rotted inside and it fell, you're potter. That's the din of the Rambam. That from that din we proved that the Rambam holds like Tosfos. So
What does the Shach do with that then?
it's not. I don't know.
It's
Well,
B'dei
kind of
Shemayim.
right.
Oh, okay, fine. So what does the Shach do? That's someone said. So this is the setup. I saw the Aruch HaShulchan. It's a huge amount. The Sma in a different place in Chosh Mishpat says the Mechaber goes like the Rambam. The Aruch HaShulchan, the Sma that the Rambam goes like the Tosfos. The Aruch HaShulchan says the Rambam goes with the Ramban. It's kimat. It's not so clear. But I think the general consensus of the poskim is to be passing like Tosfos across the board. And since there's enough opinions to say that, it's going to be hard for it's going to be hard for someone to be mechayiv you on to pay like the Ramban because the guy has too. It's going to be Mechal Haraya basically. So the halach, practically speaking, the halach is like Tosfos. Okay. Now let's go back to that point. So hashkafically, let's talk about it for a second. So l'maisa adam mod la'ilam, you cause damage, but since it was so crazy, you don't have to pay. But l'maisa, it's not fair. Why should I pay? L'maisa, you damaged me. If it's your property, okay, I guess there's a certain amount of shmira that you could do, but like, you damaged me, l'maisa. Why don't you have to pay? So the Rambam, according to this explanation, is saying, "Kim b'dei shemayim." It's not nothing to do with me. It's like the hezek happened by itself. Happened to you. It's nothing to do with me. It's an oinus, right? Like when we were learning the sugyas of hiring and firing people, and the Gemara talks about when you hired someone to plow your field and show up and it rained the night before and they can't do it. So the whole shaila of the Gemara was mazlach garm. Who's mazel? Meaning to say Hashem made it that you can't do the work today. So did Hashem make it that the worker can't do the work and taking away from the worker? Did Hashem make it that the employer cannot get the work done for himself, but he has to pay the employee? It's like the whole Shaila the Mazel Garam. So here also, a similar idea. So B'dei Shamayim. So what is the Shach? If you're going to learn that the Rambam holds like the Ramban and you're chayv in all cases, so why are you put all of a sudden over here? So Rabbi Zalman says that's the B'dei Shamayim. B'dei Shamayim is not an explanation for Einus. It's a new thing. This is not even an Einus. This is like as if it didn't have, it's like it's such an outlandish type of Einus that it's not considered you did it at all. Here it's considered not that you did it by Einus, it's considered straight from Shemayim. I don't know exactly what that means. I mean, what's the difference of every case? It's totally disconnected. So it's like the Rambam is saying a new explanation specifically to explain this halacha according to the Shach. This happened being B'dei Shamayim. But what's pshat? Like what? Right. So that already
what? Just standing there. He didn't do a ma'isa. The ma'isa was. In other words, if you're looking at it, he's an Evan Ba'alma. In both cases, he's walking up the ladder and he becomes an Evan Ba'alma and he is removed from the action. So when he walked onto the roof, he's not chayiv for walking on the roof. He's
chayiv for getting pushed off. Right.
But then he was also not doing an action. He was not from
right.
One case is you and one something you stepped on and then broke. So
I'm not sure exactly. I have to see the Rabbi Zalman better. Like, why is it such a separate, different category of something that happened? But just for the purpose of, so this is.
If a tornado picks you up and while it's destroying that neighborhood, it throws you on something and breaks it. It's not much like you didn't do it.
Right. So that's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering if there's something called Ruach She'eina Mitzuya, and then there's something called like you said, like in a legal term, like act of God. Like maybe there's something which is a totally different category that really is beyond Ruach She'eina Mitzuya. It's just like
there may be some
force majeure
level of shmira
that even according to
shmira, but a Ruach She'eina Mitzuya should have possibly dawned on you like it could have.
It's Eina Mitzuya, but it happens. But then there's things that happen once every 35 years.
The ladder, and it looks perfectly fine. What do you want me to do? Recheck every one before I get it? Oh, that's not normal. It will never function that way. So.
But I think it's beyond that. I think you have to turn it. You have to, in order to get potter like the Ramban in this pshat, you would have to say Makeh B'dei Shamayim. Like you have to. It makes it a little unclear, but halakha l'maisa we're going to go like Tosfos, and we're going to talk about. It took us 2 weeks just to get the mamash the yesod of the whole thing. You know, so the Isser we spoke about this week, and then the level of responsibility that you have, and the Machlokes Rishonim and the cases. So there's a lot of fun. So hopefully we could talk about some cases. I just want to speak out in the Achronim. We're going off halacha now. Now we're going to talk lumdis a little for the next few minutes, 4 or 5 minutes. We're done. That the Achronim want to know in the lumdis, in the Svaras, what's the machlokes between Tosfos and the Ramban? What are they arguing about in the Svara? What are they arguing about in the Svara? So the Achronim say Gavaldika explanation of the machlokes, which explains the whole concept of Adam Amazik. Okay, we said the first week that there's something called Adam Amazik, and then there's something called your property being Mazik. And Adam Amazik can turn into your property very quickly. For example, let's say we just spoke about you fell off the roof, and or you got up and there was a stone on your lap, and you got up and the stone fell and hit something. Okay, that's Adam Amazik. But let's say you got up, the stone hit the ground, and 5 minutes later someone tripped on it. That's not you anymore. Now it's your property. It's your stone was mazik, right? So there's Adam Amazik and then there's your mammon. What's your chiyuv to pay if your property damages someone? You have an ox, it damages. You have a dangerous dog, it damages. You have your scooter that's sitting out front and someone tripped on it. At least once a day. So what's your level of achrayus for that? You didn't do it. How could you be chay for something you didn't do? What's the talk of Pashup Pshat? So Pashup Pshat is that the Torah, like we said from Chaim, what? The point is you have a chiv shmira. When you own something, you're responsible for you're responsible to guard it, that it should be protecting other people. So you can't leave your stuff around, and you can't leave your ox unguarded. It's called a chiv shmira. So you're not chayiv for the maisa hezek of your donkey, or the maisa hezek of your scooter. Scooters don't have a maisa. You're chayiv because you didn't watch it properly. It's a chiv shmira. It's a chiv to watch your stuff and make sure it's guarded properly. It shouldn't be mazik other people. By Adam Amazik, simply understood, is that you're not chayiv, you're chayiv for the maisa, you're chayiv for actually going out and doing the damage. It's like a new thing. You're chayiv because you went ahead and took a hammer and mazik someone, you're chayiv for the maisa. So the Achronim want to say that the fundamental understanding of Adam Mazik is the machlokes between Tosfos and the Ramban. The Ramban understood that you're chayiv for the maisa hezek. And there's a chiddush, you're chayiv even for oinus. So, even though normally in the Torah you're not oinus, you're pot. Here, the Torah is mechadish that as long as you're called a mazik, you're called a mazik, so you're chayiv for the maisa hezek. So you have to pay. You're a mazik, the guy, you gotta pay. Unless you weren't the one that did it. It's like I'm putting my hammer and he put the crystal vase under your hammer. It's his fault. Or you're not b'chlal mazik. You can't say my maisa, I'm chai for my maisa because I'm just doing what you asked me to do. You hired me to shecht, so I'm shechting or whatever. Okay. But Tosfos holds, and this is the way you paskin, Tosfos holds, you're not really chai for the maisa hezek. Really, Adam is the same thing. We treat you like your property. In other words, just like you have to guard your property from damaging others, you have a chi of shmira on your own guf. So it's not the chi of hezek that you have. It's not chi for the maisa hezek. It's a responsibility to be shomer yourself.
It's higher level.
It's a higher level than your property, and that's that right. So on your property, if I put a dangerous item, I put a razor blade on top of the roof, and Rosh Hashanah Matsuya comes on potter because I didn't know. But for myself, on shmira's gufay, you have a higher level of responsibility. But it's a chi of shmira, which is very very geshmak in the lashon of the Mishnah. The very first Mishnah, page 1. The very first Mishnah on page 1 said, Adam mu'ad la'olam. The lashon mu'ad, where do you find mu'ad? Mu'ad is by a shor. Meaning, a shor, if it's a tam, if it's you don't know the nature of the shor, so you only have to guard it a little bit. If it's mu'ad, you have to guard it a lot. So now the Mishnah comes along and says, oh, but Adam is mu'ad right away. Adam, like who's Rabbi Chanan said, that the most dangerous creature on the face of the planet is man. So Adam is muad la'olam. You have a chi of shmira on yourself like a shor, but even more. Bein er, ben yashen. So it's a chi of shmira, and that's why Tosfos says, okay, but once there's nothing I could have done to protect myself from that. You don't find the chi of shmira. I have to pay for oinus kein geneva. I couldn't have guarded myself from that. So memela I'm potter. But it's mistaber and Tosfos that it's al tzachי of shmira. So we thought with this, also it would come out very nice. The lashon of the Rambam. If you look on page 12, Perek Aleph Halacha Yud Aleph, when the Rambam is talking about if someone went to sleep. So according to Tosfos, if someone went to sleep next to something, he has to pay. But if he went to sleep and someone else put something there next to him and he damages by rolling over, he does not have to pay. So Tosfos, the Rambam says, Aval im hoya echad yashem, if he was sleeping, ubo acher v'shachav b'tzido, another guy came and slept next to him, zeh sheba ba'achroina hu ha'muad v'mizik ha'yashem pater. Now we switch. Adam muad la'ilam. It's like the Rambam, you have to guard yourself. But if another guy came and slept next to you, now he's the muad. He's the one that has the chiyuv to guard himself. In other words, he's changing the chiyuv shmira to the other guy. Or here, the v'chein miniach kli b'tzara yashen. Or if you put a kli there, v'shavrei pater, shezeh shinichoi hu amuad. And as the Rambam is learning, like Tosfos, we're going with the Rambam, like Tosfos is very geshmak the lashon of the Rambam. What he's saying is that if someone else put the thing next to you, then he became the muad. So I'm not the muad now.
Rambam saying even if it's not his, even if it wasn't the second person.
Right, the stomach is coming to include that case.
Case
Yeah, because this is in Tosfos, not in the Ramban. You have to know Tosfos why he needed all this, but I think he's coming to make an explanation. He's saying, really, if I went to sleep next to something, then I'm the muad. But if I went to sleep and he put it there, then he's the muad. So this is the explanation in the machlekes. So just to chazer over, so we just spoke out further. We discussed what's the Isser Hezek, and we discussed further the machlekes Tosfos and the Ramban. The Ramban holds Yechayiv in basically all cases. There's only two specific categories that you're potter, and Tosfos holds Yechayiv across the board. I mean, Tosfos holds that you're only chayiv. Tosfos holds you only chayiv for limited cases of Adam when there's something you could have done about it, and we're saying the explanation is because the Ramban holds that you're chayiv for damaging. Maisa hezek. So you're chayiv much more. According to Taisus, it's a chayiv shmira, like we find by Nezikin, and therefore, if there's no way that you could have anticipated this and protected from it, then you're potter. Mitzvah Hashem, next week we'll touch on some halach l'maisa. Okay.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. Got to that last nation. Because why do you have to bring that in?